realistically, though, how does somebody afford 15 cows? I mean,
people do afford it. It's just you who can't afford. So it's not like people can't afford it. It's just
she's mad at me.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I'm mad too, but I don't want to make things.
He was kind of being not on his best behavior. I felt that too, and was lonely and kind of started reconnecting with an ex-boyfriend.
I didn't believe in your relationship. Still think that I would be a better guy to be with.
People to say.
Don't use the name.
So
we can
I'm
talk
talking
about
to nothing, and then nothing says to me, and when I meant nothing, nothing meant nothing.
Y'all, after the latest episode, if any of y'all are defending Jordan, we need to have a talk, because overstepping isn't even the word. Like, there's so much madness that happened in the latest episode, including, but not limited to, Joan telling Greg, if you don't get a job, I'm going back to Uganda, and him being so offended. Let's get into the latest. Hi guys, welcome back to Nikki Faces Reality. We are here to discuss 90 Day Fiancé. Like I said, so much happened in the latest episode, so we're going to jump straight into it. Before we do, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And we're going to kick it off with Mark and Mina. They are heavy on my brain because the effery that we witnessed is out of control. So as you guys know, they were in North Carolina, I believe, right? To see his family. So they're gonna head to Mark's brother's house, right? And Mark is basically trying to give Mina a pep talk, like, hey, we're on vacation, be happy, try not to beef with my daughter, maybe if you apologize. And Mina's like, I think not. I think that I want my space today. There will be no hello. We're not friends. Like, she's a snake. And Mark is, not happy about it. They arrive to the shuttle place where they're gonna hop into the ferry. And Jordan arrives and, Mina's like, okay, I'm gonna fake smile. And Jordan gives a fake ass hello. And it is just awkward. The tension is palpable. Things are awkward because the last time that we saw them, Jordan and Mina had that face off and Mina called Jordan a snake because she was acting like a snake. Was it appropriate? No, that's Mark's daughter. However, Mark's daughter is an adult that is overstepping and is very much acting like she is her father's wife. So that's setting the scene, okay? So they're in this ferry ride, going to where the family is at. And it is awkward, okay? Jordan and Mina do not acknowledge each other. Jordan says that she feels like Mina should put in more effort because she's coming into her family. But here's the thing, babe. Your dad has already made Mina part of your family. He has had a child that you don't really acknowledge. She is part of the family. Whether you like it or not, you're the one that needs to catch up. Not saying that Mina doesn't have to put in effort. Mina absolutely needs to put in effort. Just like she is expecting Mark to take care of Clayton and make him a priority, his grown-ass children should also be a priority. Not saying she needs to tolerate disrespect. Absolutely not. But there needs to be effort. But also, there is more of them than there is Mina, and I could understand just how intimidating it is to come into a space when you already know people don't like you, and we don't even know how much people don't like her until we get to the house, and more on that in a second. But we're in the ferry, it's awkward as hell. Jordan keeps talking about it to her boyfriend, being like, oh, it's so awkward, it's gonna consume the whole weekend. Meanwhile, Mina is right behind her. Mina can hear everything. And all she's doing is huffing and puffing, but not talking to Mina. And there's a point that Mark and Jordan are talking about Mina like she's not there. She's like, oh, this is just so awkward, daddy. And Mark is like, yeah, I know that you guys are upset at each other and, tensions are high. Mina can hear everything. Talk to Mina. Like, don't claim that family is everything, but then you're purposely ostracizing your black family members. And yeah, I said that. But after talking crap about her like she can't hear her, Jordan turns to Mina and she's like, Mina, I know that we're both really frustrated, but let's make the best of the weekend. And Mina, I know that Mina wants to curse her ass out, but she's just like, I want to try too. I know that family is important to Mark. It's important to me. I want the best outcome, basically. And Jordan, in her bitchy way is like, yeah, let's take it one day at a time. Like, how can people not see that Jordan is the one being difficult here? But they all decide to play nice, right? And this is the first time that we see Jordan interact with Maria. She fakely grabs Maria's hand. And I'm just like, you are a stranger to this little girl. But okay, I guess this is a start. But anyway, the ferry ports and it's time to get into these golf carts. Mina notices that Jordan and her man left like 10 minutes before them. They literally flew off the ferries and got into the golf cart and are probably already at the family house. Mina's like, dang, if Jordan is already there, she's probably talking crap about me to the whole family. And Mark is like, no, like, my daughter's not like that. And, I would really appreciate it if you don't call my daughter a snake, Meanwhile, we pan to the house and snake activities are going on. You can see that Jordan is like kikiing with one of her aunties, and as they see the golf cart pull up with Mark, Mina, and Maria, she's like, oh, here they come. Oh boy. This is that shit I don't like, y'all. This honestly feels like a scene from Get Out, and I just feel like it was just so telling of how the family dynamic is and how no one respects Mark, because Mark doesn't even make himself respectable. Maybe controversial opinion, but when we got here, one of the aunties is like, yeah, we had a great time when we met Mina. Mina cooked for us. We had a great family time. Didn't Jordan say that Mina didn't spend any time with the family? Didn't they say that? So Mina made them welcome, like a welcome dinner when they arrived. But then when it was time for the festivities, she had shit to do. I know it's a controversial opinion that she was late 3 hours. I wouldn't want someone to be late 3 hours. But I also feel like it wasn't that she was late and the party was held off for her. There was dancing happening. There was food happening. There were other things happening and she arrived late. I feel like in Dominican baby showers or like baptisms or things like that, the main person is always late because they make like a grand entrance. 3 hours late is excessive for me, but I wouldn't crucify someone because they were late like that. It wasn't like it was a one-on-one dinner that they were late for. They were late to a party. If you weren't having fun in that time that she didn't arrive, like that says more about you, in my opinion. Again, controversial opinion. I understand having a conversation with her being like, hey, like, don't be late 3 hours again, girl, because I'ma leave. But to be like, oh, she's a terrible person. She's a diva. She's this, she's that. I don't like that. Because there was another auntie that like literally like was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, she cooked this dinner, whatever. We were in a small apartment. But then after, I'm like, y'all are coming off real needy. I don't know. I just didn't like the vibe. But Mina's mingling with folks, doing her best to like smile through the pain, even though she's very uncomfortable. We see Mark with his brother in the kitchen. They have like a one-on-one. And he's like, hey, I saw that Jordan got here first. Did she say anything, And the brother's like, yeah, I mean, she's really, not happy with the situation. And she doesn't want, the father-daughter relationship to be affected. Totally hear that. I feel like Mark could be doing better in all parts. But also, Jordan, you are an adult. Like, you have to be a team player. You have to be flexible. I think it is incredibly naive to think that there isn't going to be any change at all when your dad now has someone and has a little child that needs assistance. Not that I think Mark is doing a lot in that department either, but everyone here has to, give and take. And, I already knew that this man, his brother, did not like Mina because he also complained about, her being a diva in the way that she arrived to her own party. Like, I don't know. All of this feels like a microaggression to me. There's a vibe to it that they're being like nice, like Southern nice, but like they're making loaded statements. You know what I mean? And he made it clear to Mark. He was like, yeah, like I'm on Jordan's side. Of course you should support your niece, but you should also talk some sense. And clearly you don't have sense. So what sense are you going to give to your niece? It's a mess. So Mark is there like, oh crap. Like, I already want to leave. And I'm like, yeah, you should have never brought your wife and your young daughter to enemy territory, because literally everyone is already determined to not like her for one event. I think that that's what like we're not getting. I totally get, being upset in that moment, but that was what, like a year and a half ago that happened, and y'all are holding a grudge to this woman that's supposed to be coming into your family. I just feel like there's something so icky about that. And the brother goes on to tell Mark, yeah, we don't have much faith in this, so we all booked refundable tickets to your wedding. That's one of those things that you do and don't say it out loud. And so I feel like him purposely telling his brother that is like a big F you, like, we don't respect you and your choices, and we don't respect the mother of your child. Like, that is what that is saying. It is incredibly disrespectful. And if Mark had some cojones, that's when he should have gotten his girls and got out of there. It is just from bad to worse, okay? I just want to shake him because he gets worse. So the family is chilling in the front porch. I don't know who this lady is that Mina's talking to all the way to the side, but it is another black woman. And at first I thought it was a producer, but then I see them like intertwined with everyone. So I don't know who she is, but Mina now pulls up to the family and they all like start asking questions about the wedding. And then out of nowhere, evil Jordan is like, so have you guys discussed, you know, the prenup? Have you gotten that together? Bitch, it is none of your business. And also, like, if I was being a nosy daughter, I would ask it to him in private. But I think that it was such like a mean girl tactic to ask it in front of everyone. Because no matter how Mina reacts, it feels like a test, you know? And Mark is like, yeah, I mean, we talked about it. We're gonna do it. You know, he's like, but you shouldn't have asked me that, you know, right here, right now. Like, he's very uncomfortable too. And Mina's like, you think I'm here for your dad's money? Like, you really think that I'm here for that? To which then Mark, I guess defending Jordan, but then throwing his own fiance under the bus, is like, well, you know, the optics of it, you being young, I'm being older, protecting the things, you know, that I had before us. Mark, you purposely go after younger women, so I don't want to hear you all of a sudden making that a problem when it comes to getting your marriage. I am pro prenup. I am not pro embarrassing your fiance in front of people that already want to hate her. All of this was out of bounds. And this is what like sets me off about this. It's like now they're having this tiff in front of the family, which makes it seem like you are unsure about your decision. So why would they have confidence in your decision? Conversations like this should be private. And I want to highlight that Mina mentioned that Mark actually has never brought up a prenup. So imagine bamboozling your fiance in front of all of these people just because you don't want to disappoint poor Jordan. This is crazy. You are not ready to be anyone's husband. And again, I feel like Mark should be protecting Mina in front of all of these folks. The way that I want to mop the woods with Jordan's face after this scene, because then of course Mina walks off and she's crying, she's embarrassed, she's humiliated, she feels alone, she feels ostracized. Mark in his stupid face, another face that I want to rake the woods with, he's just like, I don't know why, you know, she's being like that. Like, he has that demeanor, like that mopey, like stupid. You're too old to play stupid. Him and his stupid daughter are like, oh, does she not know what like a prenup is? Like, I wonder what she interpreted it as. You know exactly what you did. Mark needs to grow some and quick. Whew, he really pissed me off this episode, y'all. Let me know your thoughts because I know they're going to be polarizing and we can share different thoughts. It is completely fine. You know, it's just, I feel like people are not being protected and I think we can agree on that, you know? But let's move on to the next couple. Let's go through Sarper and Shekinah quickly. I don't like them, but a lot of y'all do, so I'll just cover like a snapshot. So Shekinah kicks Harper out because of course she has a client. He's being pissy about it, of course. But it's a good thing that she did kick him out. I didn't realize that her clients are literally in towels. So that is vulnerable. You don't want a random man around. But also, honey, they drop the tea on everything that's happening in their life, including details on hookups. So I totally get that this is supposed to be a safe space. Harper goes out, he's going for a walk, he's being like, oh, I'm part-time homeless. And it's like, sir, this is a nice neighborhood to be in. You're good. But we see him call his family and he is complaining about the fact that like, you know, Shekinah kicks him out for work and they're like, oh my God, she wasn't transparent about that. I think that he's giving his family false hope. In telling them this, of course, they're going to be like, come home, come home. But also he keeps stressing the fact that like, you know, the visa's only for 90 days. And if it doesn't work out, he can come back. But like, Sarper, you're not going to leave America. Stop giving your family false hope. He tells them at one point not to sell his apartment, like, just in case. And I'm just like, you and Shekinah have been doing this for a long time. You ain't going nowhere. If anything, I feel like you're just worrying them more. When we see them back at the house together, though, Shekinah's complaining that he's using up all of her products, and he's a bigger diva than you. You knew this, okay? But they're getting ready to meet up with her friends, and she, like, basically gives him a talking to, like, be nice, like, you know, whether they push you or, like, gang up on you, like, you know, you have to hold your composure. And when I heard that, I'm like, Shekinah, it sounds like you need to have a talk with your friends, too, because, like, Sarper can only be pushed so far, you know? But she particularly mentions that she's worried about her friend Dan because Dan is in love with her. So to that I say, Shekinah, be effing for real. I feel like this is such a self-producing moment because of course you're going to bring the guy that's in love with you to push Sarper's buttons, right? And so when we see them at dinner, and Dan is, you know, being very vocal. Sarper can suss him out. He's like, he's European. He's saying sly things, but I know what they mean. Everyone else here is American and they don't know, like, that unspoken drag that's happening. So it's a little tense between the guys. So everyone's chit-chatting, but Dan is really hogging the conversation. And he's like, oh, so you're here for 3 months. And Shekinah's like, well, no, the visa's for 3 months. But when we get married, then you know, he'll be here forever. And Dan is like, oh, well, if you get married. And Dan flat out tells Sarper, like, I don't think you're worthy of Shekinah. I thought you were playing games. And honestly, I feel like I'm a better guy for her. And Sarper's like, come again? Did you guys, like, date or something? And Dan, you could tell that, look, the 3 little dates that he went with Shekinah really meant a lot. But he was like, you know what dating is, right? I mean, we weren't together, but, like, we did a few dates. And he stresses in the confessional that, like, they did more than kissing a few times. And you could see Shekinah's like, you weren't supposed to say that. Just in general, the way that Dan is talking to Sarper, I think he's purposely pushing Sarper's buttons so that Sarper can act up and make a bad impression in front of everyone. But Shekinah had already given him a talking to, so he's doing the thing where he's like shifting in his seat and he's just like smiling like, you're testing me, but he's really trying to keep it together. And Shekinah keeps like looking back at Sarper, but I'm like, you need to control your friend. But Sarper lets out a little venom and he's like, you may be the better guy, but you're not her type. And Dan is like getting pissed because Sarper is as cool as a cucumber. And Dan is like, you know, she's not one of your little Barbies. Like, she's not another notch in your bedpost. Like, you know, you need to treat her right. He's like, she's not a Barbie and you're no Ken. And Sarper's like, she is my Barbie. And I just think it's funny because I'm like, Dan, you're yelling from outside the club. You clearly cannot get in. Because this is the woman that literally had Sarper design her nose job. She loves being his doll. She likes that he controls what she eats. She likes that he, you know, tells her what workouts to do. She likes that he picks out her clothes. They have that kind of relationship, whether you and I agree with it. So the fact that he's like, she's not one of your dolls, I'm like, Shekinah likes that. That's why she chose Sarper. She literally picked him over her family. So I'm just like, maybe don't speak on what you don't know. But at one point, it just becomes a bit of a pissing contest. They're just going back and forth. And all the girls are just like... And ultimately, Dan is like, you know, I don't believe that you're actually committed to her. And you know what? I don't need to be here for this. And he just gets up and like walks off. And it was just so pointless because I feel like we didn't learn anything but the fact that this guy's in love with her, you know? I really don't know why else she brought out that guy. But anyway, let's move on to Greg and Joan. When we see them, Joan is cleaning up Greg's messy ass room and she's like, can you pick up after yourself? To which Greg is like, you know, it's just so interesting that like I'm so used to my mom doing all this and now I have 2 ladies nagging at me. And so he's like, yeah, babe, I will. And then goes back to playing video games. Like the ick. Because it's one thing if you have a job and you have something going for yourself and you're playing video games to release stress. What stress does Greg have? He has not provided a thing. Everything that he's provided, I feel like, has been his mother. So I'm just like, this is the 90 days for you to prove to Joan that you can be that provider for her, that you can be an equal partner. What are you bringing to this? And so Joan is here in this nice ass dress, picking up after the slob. So when he turns to play his video games, I'm like, sir, you need to be going to Indeed.com. You need to be going to Jobs.com. Like, you need to go to LinkedIn, not video games. Anyway, she gets a call from her family, so she ends up walking out to the yard to have a talk with them. And she's like, yeah, you know, it's okay here, but he wants us to stay with his mom for like 2 years. And they're like, oh no, like he needs to get a job. Like you guys need to get out of there. And she's embarrassed because, you know, everyone thinks that in America, like things are much better. But at its core though, like when you send out your family to the other side of the world, you want to make sure that they're taken care of. And so they quickly ask about the dowry. And at first, it's unclear if she's ever had the conversation with him or if she just hasn't brought it up since she got to America. But she's like, yeah, you know, like, I don't know if he's going to be able to afford it because he doesn't have a job. And they're like, well, he needs to get a job and figure that out. At this point, I'm like, Joan, go home, girl. And I'm going to keep saying that. The next time we see them together, they're doing some garden work. They're tending to the chickens. Lucille, Greg's mom, comes out and she's about to head out to do some work. Apparently, Greg set her up to do like food delivery, like Uber and things like that during the pandemic. So that's her way of getting out of the house a few hours of the day. So my question is, Greg, why aren't you doing that? That's flexible work where you can work on your business plan and still bring some money in. Why aren't you doing that? And I'm surprised Joan didn't ask him that in this moment. But anyway, the mom leaves and Greg practically drags Joan into the house, into the bedroom to get it in. So at this point, they've had to kind of like schedule schmexy time around his mom's schedule. And he makes a comment about like Lucille being nosy and like every room that he's in, like she, you know, magically has something to do in that room. And like at first I'm like, damn, she's being nosy. There's no boundaries. But now looking at how Greg lives, I'm like, no, this is Lucille's house. And she knows that you are messy and leave a trail wherever you go. And she's probably following you around to clean up after you. But anyway, after an hour, they come out of the room in these robes. He looks like he had a great time. I don't know if she didn't have a good time or if she's trying to be coy because she's private. But she's just like, yeah, it was good. And she's like, so, I can't be here for 2 years. And immediately as she brings up this serious conversation, he starts fidgeting with the water hose. Like, yeah, I know, I need a job. Like, ugh. And Joan is like, listen, if you don't get a job, like I am going to have to go back to Uganda. And he looks so offended. Like it never occurred to him that she wouldn't settle for his BS and would remember her standards. He's like, oh, I didn't think that would ever be like a factor. You're not taking care of her. Why? Like, she's like, I need stability and you are not giving me stability. You're not showing me that you know what it is. And actually, your friends opened my eyes to it because I realized it's not a generational issue. It's you. And she's like, and actually, you know, you need a job to cover the dowry. And she mentions that they need like 15 cows, I think. And it comes out to like 200 or 300 each. He's going to have to cough up like a few thousands for the dowry, which is customary. We've seen it time and time again on the show. And also, he went to Uganda a few times. I'm sure that he's familiar with the customs. And she makes it clear that she has had this conversation with him before. So it's not like he was in the dark about it, you know. And he's like, 15 cows, how does one even get that? And she's like, many people do it. You're the only one that can't seem to do it. And while that was a harsh, direct delivery, truth hurts. And I could see his ego like a little bruised about it, but I just can't get with his attitude of like, oh, why is this all on me? Like, sir, because you knew that was the role that you would have to take when you brought her here. I don't know why people think that this is a small little task. Bringing someone in here in a visa is a big undertaking, and it's a responsibility that you sign up for, and you cannot hold it over their head because you knew what you were signing up for. You knew that you were signing up for a wedding. You knew that you were signing up to take care of her and her paperwork so that she can eventually work. You knew that you were signing up for all of those things. He's like, well, you knew that you were signing up to me. yeah, to you as a person, she could never foresee that you would literally choose to not get a job. Because let's be honest, I feel like Greg went to Uganda and sold her a dream. Because when she got here and she was like, wait, you're turning down jobs knowing that I'm coming here? That's a problem. And then also seeing with her eyeballs that he is so complacent with his current life because he has it made at his mother's house. Yeah, I too would want to go back to Uganda because you're not showing me that you can stand on your own 2 feet. And so he's saying that, like, he's been applying to jobs, and she's like, you don't communicate that to me. And he's like, yes, I do. And she's looking at him like, sir, I think she would remember if you did. So yeah, I just don't appreciate him being like, oh, what do you mean I have to do everything that I signed up for? Like, no, you need to go home, Joan. This man is showing you a lot. He's going to have to really switch up for me to like him because he just lacks ambition. He lacks drive. And I feel like, a lot of people move back home to start over, and like, I feel like it gives you an advantage when you don't have to stress about rent. But I feel like it's kind of backfired for Greg because he's like, I have a maid. I don't really have to ever leave. And my mom likes having me around. And it's like, then stay single forever. This isn't a fair dynamic to bring a partner in. And honestly, partner is a generous word. I feel like you're just getting a second mom, and Joan did not sign up for that. So next up is Juan and Jessica, and we see them in the aftermath of their whole little ordeal where Juan believes that Jessica cheated on him because she was emotionally dabbling with an ex. But Jessica's determined to not, make it obvious to her boys that something is up. So the boys wake them up, and she dresses everyone in matching Christmas PJs, and she just wants to keep it chill vibes this morning. But we see her drop off the boys at her ex's house, their father's house, which, by the way, is walking distance from her home, which I'm sure is ideal for the boys, but also puts into perspective just how small this town is. But this guy's house is massive. They drop off the boys, and then Juan and Jessica go for a walk with their baby. Y'all, I literally forgot about this couple, which is why you're getting a voiceover for their section. But basically, they're going for a walk, and she's feeling a little salty that he's kind of like diverting blame. I don't think he's diverting blame. I think that he's already owned up to the fact that he physically cheated. And her way of like acknowledging that she also cheated, but also trying to downplay it, is basically like, oh, well, we were distant. The distance was, hard on both of us. And I just spent, time with an ex that was having a hard time. But that doesn't change what you did. And I'm just like, he's not trying to change what he did. He's just trying to hold space for the fact that he wasn't alone in committing the quote-unquote crime. You know what I mean? So overall, I just feel like she's being really vague about what exactly happened between her and the ex, which only makes her look guiltier for me. But in the same breath, all of this happened like a year ago. You guys are in a better place. Like, none of it matters anymore. I just think that Huang was basically being like, don't be so self-righteous when you did something not too different from what I did, which I think is the point. But now that they're together, at her core, her fear is that Huang is just not going to be satisfied with this life because he's never had a quote-unquote normal, boring life. He's always been kind of a nomad in this, cruises. And she's like, can you do this? Is this enough for you? I want you to want to be here. And he's like, yeah, like I do. And here's the thing. I think that a mixture of his grief of not having his dad around, and also I do believe that he does love Jessica. I do believe that there's love here, even though he didn't wrap it up, but I also feel like she wanted to trap him, but I really do feel like there is love here, and I don't foresee him abandoning his child, So I think they're going to be fine-ish for now, unless her girlfriend Megan, who's obsessed with her, intervenes. The last couple is Shawn and Alliya, and before I get to them, and I just want to be clear that this page is a safe space for LGBTQIA. Please do not bring transphobic rhetoric into my page. Please don't make transphobic comments. Alliya's pronouns are she, her, and that needs to be respected on this account. It is non-negotiable. Please respect that. That being said, when we get to their segment, Shawn and Alliya are meeting up with his friend Angela. And you could tell that Angela did not get the full story. I don't think that Angela expected to see Alliya because she had only heard of, the origins of their love story. And she just knew that Shawn went to Brazil a lot. So she could tell that it was getting serious. But I don't think she knew the full arc of their story. Shawn and Alliya have been together for 3 years. And for over a year and a half or so, Alliya has been Alliya. But it's clear that Angela didn't really know the story, so Alliya asks Angela, so how much do you know? Because I know that Shawn has been a little, weird about sharing our story. How much do you know? And that's when Angela's like, yeah, I knew about Douglas and I knew this and that. And she just kept dropping the dead name Douglas. And you could see that Alliya is like getting smaller and smaller and like fidgeting with her hands because she's like, why are you using my dead name? Like, why? Like, I don't know how to react. And like, no matter what you believe, I think that it is just human decency to call people what they want to be called. If she is presenting herself to you as Alliya, you need to call her Alliya and nothing else. It doesn't matter if you were used to one thing. Correct yourself. I have a few friends that are non-binary, but when I met them, they went by she, her. And of course, there's a learning curve, but the key is to not make it hot. Don't be like, oh my God, I'm sorry. Like, it's just, it's taking me a while to get used to. No. So if I'm talking to a friend and I'm like, oh yeah, because her thing, their thing, and I just fix it. The key is to not make it a big deal where then your friend has to now like console you and make you feel good about the fact that like you misgendered them. No, just like fix it and keep it moving. I just think it's about being kind and inclusive and like moving on with your day. And I get some comments of people being like, well, Shawn is entitled to mourn, the relationship because he was in a relationship with Douglas. The person in their essence is still here. It is insulting, I think, in a way to be like, I understand that visually they're different, but the person at the core that you fell in love with is still present. And I think that it's been over a year. I feel like Shawn has had much time to reconcile with the fact that Alliya is Alliya. I think that it disrespects the present relationship that has, Alliya has been Alliya in about half of their relationship. I think that it's time to wrap it up. I think that Shawn is literally milking it at this point. And I also feel like, yes, they started the processed paperwork with the dead name Douglas, but he proposed to Alliya when Alliya was already Alliya. That was a decision that Shawn made. That personally, I feel like you needed to figure that out if you could be with this person before taking that step. And even then, he had plenty of time to decide. He could have told Alliya, don't go to the embassy and do the interview because I'm not going to take care of you. I don't want to be in this relationship. There were so many opportunities for him to get out of it. I don't think it's fair for him to go through all of that and still be like, oh, I'm so unsure about Alliya. You had plenty of time to decide. You had plenty of trips to Brazil to decide whether this was the person for you. No one is forcing you to be with her. At the core, I think that he can see that this is still the person that he's in love with is in there. It's in the soul. And I'm not saying that this is for everyone. I'm not saying that like you have to stay with someone when they transition. I think the best thing you could do for someone that you love is set them free when you're no longer a fit. And I think that it's just uncomfortable, like them dead naming her and her like becoming smaller and smaller. And when they're at the end of the dinner and, they're waiting for their cab, Alliya tells him, she's like, I did not appreciate, my dead name being mentioned constantly. And instead of apologizing for making her feel uncomfortable, he's like, well, she wanted to know the story. You brought it up. And he's just so dismissive about it. And again, this is another guy that's way too old. He's a gay man in LA. He cannot play dance. It is all around him. He knows better. So the next morning, it's obviously very uncomfortable in their house, but they go shopping. And I've noticed a few times, I think that Shawn is trying to be helpful. He's like, pointing out clothes that he thinks Alliya will like. And Aliyah's like, I got it. I can choose for myself. And I think that, there's like a power imbalance here. And I think that Alliya tries to get her power whenever she can, because he seems to have a lot of input when it comes to like her appearance. And she's like, I got it. But Shawn can pick up that, there's like a tone about it. And he's like, oh, you're still upset about yesterday? And she's like, yeah, I'm annoyed that you're talking, you keep dropping my dead name. And he's like, well, what am I supposed to say? Nothing and I did this, and nothing and I did this, and nothing means nothing to me. And it's like, don't make me remove the plastic from your face, Shawn. You know better. I feel like he's purposely playing stupid. And again, like you could see like Alliya die a little inside, because she's like, why am I here? Like, if you're not really ready to marry me, like, why are we doing any of this? I don't know. It just feels very disrespectful, right? Because you can talk about an experience and still mention Alliya, because Alliya was there. It is the same person. The person was there. You made all of those memories with the same person. They just look different, but it was the same person. And I don't know how much I believe that Shawn came to his senses, or that he's realizing that this is on tape. But that night, Aliyah's making them dinner, and he's like, I did a lot of thinking. And he pulls out a book. And as you guys recall, there was a book for like Shawn and Douglas, and it was capturing all of their memories. So then he in turn made a book of his own for Alliya, saying Shawn and Alliya. And again, Alliya has been Alliya for over a year. So that book was stacked with so many memories. And you could see that this was touching, and that Alliya needed this, because she's like, I finally feel like you see me, because all this time it felt like you wanted to be with someone else, And, this really warmed up Aliyah's heart, because then when it was time for bed, honey, she pulled up in this lingerie, okay? So I don't know if they're actually going to be active, because, they're in this open relationship and she wants to make sure that they're being safe. But yeah, it's alluded that something went on. But their problems are far from over, you guys. In the teaser, they're clearly still going to be in an open relationship, because he wants to be with men. But I just don't know. I feel like Shawn comes out very disingenuous to me. Yeah, I don't know. And also the age is, yeah, there's a lot happening here. But yeah, you guys, let me know your thoughts. If I came a little hot, I think I'm feeling it too. I got charged for rent twice this month. I literally feel like I'm gonna cry. I got charged twice, and now my account is like in the negatives, and I just want to fight. And I think that that's why this video is a little extra spicy. I just hate being inconvenienced like that, and I'm like spiraling a little bit as we speak. But anyway, I love you guys. I'm recording this before work, so now I have to run. Yeah, you guys, I'll see you guys in the next one. Let me get my life together. Bye.